Hello everyone, how you going? Welcome to What I Wish I Knew Before Moving to Canada Part 2. Now I've done Part 1 before and everyone kept saying, well, you just need to do Part 2 because she was a little bit controversial I think, and so let's just see what else she's got for us.
This is Part 2 of things I wish I knew before I moved to Canada. I moved to Canada from Australia back in 2018 and when I moved, I didn't do any research, which I'm like totally 100% well aware that I definitely should have, but I feel like that needs to be the disclaimer because some of these things may seem like kind of straightforward, especially if you've already started your research on moving to Canada. So the first thing I wish I knew before I moved to Canada is some of the slang that they use here. I kind of want to do a whole video talking about different words they use and all of the slang and everything like that. So I'm not going to give you guys a whole bunch, but these are the ones I guess that really threw me when I got here. So the first one is Loonies and Toonies. So
the Loonies and Toonies. Now I've heard this before and honestly I'm curious to hear what other Canadian slang there is because I haven't heard of much Canadian slang in general. I mean, especially compared to Australia and then probably the UK is mixed in there as well in terms of the two top tier countries with slang. I really haven't heard of North America having much slang. But then I guess considering she's just brought out of the bag Loonies and Toonies, which even though I have heard of it before, I guess actually we did watch an animated video which said a whole bunch of things, but I don't know if that was the name for the actual thing that was called, as I remember there was a toque, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, but that was like a beanie, and then I guess there was a whole bunch of things, but I don't know if that was the real name for them or if that was the slang name for them. But hey, I guess if nothing else, I don't even think that Australia has any slang terms for their $1 and $2 coins, and so I guess we're just lacking.
Loonies are dollars and Toonies are $2. I just realized that's probably because it's like Toonie.
Yeah.
$2. Did you know that? Okay, apparently how.
Two Loonies.
Like a loose? It's a loose one?
Looney Tunes.
No! Okay, at least I actually have more context than she does in this. It was because there's a picture of a loon on it. Which, yeah, here we go. I just searched up loon animal. I thought it was a bird. Is it a duck or a bird? I guess it's saying bird, so it's going to be a bird. But then if we look at the coin, then you can clearly see that that is definitely a loon, and so the entire kind of name mix here makes sense.
So a loonie is $1 and a toonie is a $2 coin. So if you go anywhere in Canada, they won't refer to it as $1 or $2. It's a loonie or a toonie. You get used to it. I mean, it's kind of cute. It's just weird at first. When you get here and someone's like, do you have a toonie? You're like, I mean, like, I don't know, do I?
I mean, yeah, I guess if you didn't have any context, you'd be going, I don't know, am I meant to? Should I not? Is it something that I need to be worried about? Is it something I need to go to the doctor about? Just what is this thing that you're talking about? But it's like, no, I'm just asking for a coin, calm down. And after that, after it's actually explained to you, then it goes, okay, it's very, very easy to understand. But otherwise, I can definitely sympathize with the fact that if you had no context, I mean, if you were talking about currency, surely you can figure it out. But if you otherwise just have no context and someone just comes randomly up to you in the street and goes, hey, can I just have a loonie or a toonie, then you go, no, yes, I don't know.
The next one is a beanie, like that you wear on your head, is a toque. Yeah. I feel like that one's really important to know, especially if you're coming for winter, because no one calls it a beanie at all. Not a single person. It's a toque and a toque only. And the last one, I don't know if this is super important to know, but they call a garage or a parking garage a parkade. This one really
a parking garage? What is a parking garage? Like a car park? Is that what she's talking about? Because to me, a parking garage doesn't really mean anything. I mean, I guess I can kind of understand just based off movies and things, maybe if that's correct, but I'm really just hoping and guessing that's correct because I've never heard an Australian call it parking garage. And if it was at home, then it would just be called a garage, and so parking garage, parkade, okay. And hey, I also love the fact that she just immediately went and just backed me up in terms of the beanie is a toque. I'm fairly sure, hopefully we're both pronouncing it correctly, but hey, T-O-Q-U-E, it was a beanie. Sure, I can get around that. Different people call it different things. Easy to remember.
This one really got me working at guest services. I remember the first customer that came up to me and was like, excuse me, I need a key to the parkade. And I was like, I genuinely have no idea what you want a key for. Do they call them parkades in Australia? Now I'm starting to wonder. They don't at all, do they?
Wait, what?
Yeah, I think sometimes.
They do? Oh my gosh.
Now I really have no idea what she's on about, and so I don't even know if these things exist, but then they said that they do, and they might even be called that. Either way, I'm out of the loop.
Alright, the next thing I wish I knew before I moved to Canada is that it really gets hot here in the summertime.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds so stupid saying that sentence now after living here, but I feel like before I moved, I had this perception in my head that Canada was this really cold place. Like it was always cold, it was always snowing, it was like a winter wonderland. And I mean, I was moving for winter, so that's probably why I had winter in my head, but it really does get hot here in the summertime.
Well, I must admit, I was also guilty of just thinking this. I had no idea that it got anywhere remotely warm, but let alone hot in Canada. I just would have assumed that it would have been like the UK in terms of, oh, it's so hot, it's 20 degrees Celsius outside, and all of a sudden they're just like stripping down and going to the beach. But that is just not the fact. They go from -40, -60 with wind chill all the way up to +40. It's ridiculous. I honestly don't really understand how anything that is either natural, like, biological, or even just man-made survives those kind of conditions. I mean, you guys have told me told me before that Canada has very strict building codes in terms of insulation and airflow and heating and cooling and everything, and by God, you need it by those metrics. And really, I just wish that Australia just took on some of those building regulation codes, because man, some places you go into, even though they're built to kind of be alright in the heat, if it gets anywhere below like 10 degrees, they are just freezing.
I've lived in the Rocky Mountains and in Vancouver, and in both places, it gets up to like mid-20s, low 30s. Right. I really thought it was only going to get to like 16 or 18, so that really got me when it was summertime. I mean, it's great because there's so many beautiful hikes and lakes here in Canada, and I really just thought we were going to have to hike them in the cold, but that was just really not the case.
Now, it's interesting what she's just said to me, because people have said so many times like, oh yeah, it gets up to 40, it got up to 45, it even got up to 50 somehow, but she said, oh, it got up to like 26, high 20s, and so that is definitely a little bit lower than what I've experienced in the comments. But hey, I guess she said she was living in the Rocky Mountains, and so maybe that just doesn't get as hot, or maybe, where else did she say?
I've lived in the Rocky Mountains and in Vancouver, and in both places it gets up to like mid-20s, low 30s.
Okay, actually she did say low 30s, and also it was Vancouver that I was looking for, and so I can certainly understand and stretch my imagination to go from low 30s up to 40 degrees, but above that I'm just starting to be very doubtful. I just do not understand how any part of this world can just go from minus 40 to positive 40 within 1 year.
But I also get asked a lot from people who aren't in Canada, like, oh, it actually gets hot there? So I feel like I'm not the only one. I found in the Rockies it was a really dry heat, which was similar to Melbourne, but here in Vancouver, I think because it rains a lot here, and I guess because it's Pacific Northwest, it does get kind of sticky and humid. I don't think it gets as humid as the East. I've heard Toronto gets like really humid and hot. And I went to New York in April once, and I remember that just being the absolute worst.
Now that is something I never would have thought, but I guess yeah, if you're going to be having icy snow conditions during the winter, then that means your summer is going to be also quite humid, I can only imagine, especially living on a coastline. I mean, I'm fairly sure that every continent's west coast, yeah, it must be west coast is drier than the east coast, both in rainfall and just general humidity and everything, and so I guess Sydney and Queensland would probably be more humid, but honestly I have nothing to compare it to. But no, I just find it interesting and kind of funny the fact that she said, oh, what do you mean Canada gets hot? Because I had the same idea, and she even said other people have it, and so I think people just generally think that Canada, it's up north, it's just going to be cold and frosty.
Also, I wish I knew that summer went off here. I really wish I knew that.
Oh, right.
I feel like if it's a nice day, everyone's out. Like everyone's at the beach, everyone's at a lake having a picnic.
Oh, of course, I always forget about the lake culture as well. So you've got the frosty culture, but then you've also got the lake culture, hot, just summer weather where you just, I don't know, I'm imagining people just going out kayaking, canoeing and on jet skis basically. And hey, that certainly makes sense considering if it's getting humid and mid to high 20s, if not low 30s, if not high 30s, if not low 40s even apparently, then I can understand why people are going to be wanting to go into these lakes. And so with her saying that summer goes off, I can understand that based on the fact that apparently everyone has a cabin, or a lot of people have a cabin, and then everyone's around a lake or an ocean or anything like that. There's just plenty of water involved in summer.
I feel like that isn't so much of a thing in Australia. I know people go outside and they have fun and they're doing stuff, but I feel like here in Vancouver, every single person is out if it's a nice day. It doesn't matter if it's a weekday. It doesn't matter if it's a weeknight. Like everyone is out doing stuff. Another thing I wish I knew is that it stays really light until late here in daylight savings. Yeah. So in Australia, I feel like at the peak of daylight savings, it's around 8, 9 p.m. But here it's like 10 p.m. 11 p.m.
I mean, hey, I can certainly understand that given the latitude of most of Canada in comparison to Australia. It's just greater from the equator, and given the fact that I'm fairly sure in the peak of summer it sets at like 10 past 8 or something is when sunset is. Either way, you are certainly still having light. Even just right after 9 p.m. is when you're still going to be having just a little bit of light left, but I can understand just these extended twilight hours that just get more and more ridiculous, like in the Arctic Circle, when you just get 2 months of pure daytime and then 2 months of pure nighttime.
In the Rockies and Vancouver anyway, I'm not sure about the East, but I definitely remember sometimes in summer where it would be 10 p.m. and the sun's still out. It's still a nice day.
Oh, what? Wait, still out? Wait, what is she even talking about like that? That is a little bit of a difference because, like I said, the sun sets at 8, so to be having 2 more hours, I guess I can understand that being, what is it, maybe 20 degrees more north? Yeah, we are minus 33, and what is, I guess Vancouver, for instance, they're going to be positive 49, and so yeah, 17 degrees difference. I was pretty close with 20 degrees. The only other difference would be if I just go all the way up to Grossfield, which we checked out. Oh my goodness, it is so far up. 76 degrees. Get out of here. I mean, yes, alert is all the way up the top here, but it's not really a livable place. Like, come on, it literally says Canadian Forces Station Alert. Oh, no way there was a Tim Hortons there. What? Open now, dine-in drive-through. Okay, then I guess it's just everywhere. And even though the projection just stuffs it around, honestly, there is just no comparison. To get, what, 50? That's 62. So honestly, you're down in Antarctica before you even get anywhere near it. Yeah, look, 70 and you're already in Antarctica.
So I really wish I knew that before I moved, because that really threw me off at the start. Especially if you have a morning shift at work the next day, because when you're trying to go to sleep
true.
and it's still daylight at 9 p.m. and 10 p.m., that really throws you off. On the other hand though, it's really good because if you do work all day, you have time at night to go outside. And I feel like because everyone's always out and doing stuff, people do things after work in summer.
I mean, Australia definitely has that as well in terms of people using the daylight hours to their fullest extent. But really, if you just have more daylight hours to use, there's just more to do.
The next thing I wish I knew before I moved to Canada, this one is also another weather one. I promise it's the last one. But I wish I knew that seasons didn't start on the first of the month here. I knew that the seasons here were opposite to what they were in Australia, obviously with where the countries are in the world. Like, it's summer here right now, it's winter in Australia. But I didn't know that the days of the season starting here weren't the first of the month. I literally remember on July 1st being like, summer! And it had been summer since like June 21st or something.
Wait, hang on a second. Through all the videos that I've watched, it has never come up that the seasons do not start on whatever respective month. Is that something that is exclusive to Canada, or is it all of North America, or does the UK do it as well, or does all the Northern Hemisphere do it? I have no idea, but I've never heard that before. I mean, yeah, like she said, obviously we have alternate seasons, but no, that is just brand new to me.
I feel like here is the right way, and it's something to do like with the sun. I actually don't know. If you guys know how the seasons work and why they start on days that actually aren't the first of the month, can you please let me know in the comments below, because I feel like I don't know to be able to explain it to you guys. But I think Australia is doing it wrong. I think they will kind of just like the first of the month will do, and it has something to do with the sun and the moon.
I mean, yeah, I guess they were just lazy and went, okay, this is the easiest way to do it. I don't really understand why you would do it lazily, and I would assume that Canada's way would be right in terms of picking a specific day that would probably be more accurate. I mean, I guess by being lazy about it, it's simplified, so you don't have to go, oh wait, what's the day? Oh, it's now summer. You go, okay, at least we know the month, and so that's a little bit easier to keep track of. But honestly, there are so many different seasons worldwide that, you know, some places just have a wet and a dry season. Some places, I guess like Canada, are either cold, humid, or hot. Some places like Australia, I'm fairly sure is actually meant to probably have about 6 seasons, and I'm sure that realistically none of these things ever truly line up with the Gregorian calendar, and so I guess, yeah, it's lazy and it's just trying to make the two things work in conjunction with each other. But honestly, it would probably be good to just actually do a little bit of science behind the entire thing.
But the next thing I wish I knew before I moved to Canada is that there are products that are made by the same company but are sold under a different name / brand. I feel like I never would have thought that without reading my notes. I feel like if you're in Australia, you'll know that Hungry Jack's is owned by Burger King, but because there was a Burger King in Australia already, they have to put it under Hungry Jack's. It's kind of like the same thing over here, like that kind of vibe. I'll give you a couple of examples that I can think of. Oral-B, which is a like toothpaste and mouthwash brand in Australia. That is Crest over here. And Rexona, which is deodorant, is Degree over here.
Oh, okay then. Well, that makes sense in terms of the last video with the random commercials that we watched, that Degree is now Rexona. Oh, I'm just learning so many things. But that then makes sense as to why I've never heard of Degree, because it's like, oh, well, we don't stock that. We have Rexona, but of course, there we go. And like she said, with the whole Hungry Jacks and Paydens and everything like that, as well as Oral-B, that's a new one to me. I mean, I guess I've heard of Crest before just through, I don't know, I guess maybe through YouTube, or no idea, maybe movies, but I never would have made the connection that they are the same brand. And so I guess hopefully she just rattles off a whole list of these, because wow, I never would have expected there to be that many differentials.
And they are somehow the only two I can think of. You know what? I kind of feel like I could do a whole video on this and maybe actually do some research and have some written down to give you guys. If you want to see that video, please let me know in the comments below, and I promise I'll give you better examples than just a deodorant and toothpaste. But I feel like it's just good to know that there are some products that you can get over here, but they just have a different name. I feel like it helps when you're going to the supermarket. Like if you use Oral-B back in Australia, like you can still use it here. It just has a different name.
I mean, I guess things like this make no real impact on your life in terms of how you're going to live it moving from one country to another, but I guess if you just find the one that you like back at home, you just get to bring that piece of home with you, so you go, oh, okay, cool, I don't have to worry about this or this and start all over again, especially considering toothpaste shouldn't be something you're going through every single week. That's just way too much toothpaste if you're using that much. But either way, just to keep that little bit of a connection to home would just be a nice feeling.
Alright, so the last thing I wish I knew before I moved to Canada, I'm actually kind of low-key scared to say it.
What's it gonna be?
It's not even that bad, I'm just being dramatic. But I feel like, in my experiences, Canadians have a really less sarcastic humor. Maybe they are still sarcastic, but I feel like compared to Australians and New Zealand and the UK, It's not the same humor. And I definitely feel like I've gotten myself into some awkward situations where I've said something and it just hasn't been interpreted right.
Now that is certainly something that could get you into a little bit of trouble, or maybe not even trouble, just into an awkward situation where you've said something where you didn't really mean it because you were saying it sarcastically, but then it was taken in a wrong way and the entire thing just kind of broke down in front of your eyes. But I do find it interesting that she made the triangle between the UK, New Zealand and Australia, because I guess Australia and New Zealand are a given. We're very similar in a lot of ways like that, and then Australia is just kind of taken over time, or I guess just via osmosis, just taken the UK's slang and all that kind of things. Just that really dry, sarcastic, possibly even dark humor that I guess if it just comes across wrong in other countries, it's definitely going to come across wrong.
I don't know, maybe I'm just not funny, maybe that's it, but I feel like they have a very less sarcastic humor. What I'm trying to say is I don't think Canadians aren't funny, I just think their humor is a lot different to what I'm used to in Australia, and I've definitely gotten myself into some situations where I've said something around a bunch of Canadians and they've kind of just stared at me like I'm an idiot or like I'm really mean and I'm joking, I'm not being serious. If you're from Australia or New Zealand or the UK and you're in Canada, please let me know if you've experienced this. I'm really not trying to be mean. I've met plenty of Canadians that are funny and are sarcastic. I just feel like I've had a lot of experiences where it kind of just feels like I haven't read the room right.
I mean, yeah, I guess that certainly makes sense and it's something to watch out for. I don't really understand how that's happened. You know, culturally, how has that diverged? Because obviously, historically, the USA, Canada, and Australia are all British colonies, but then somewhere along the line, one, I guess being the USA, probably developed more into their own identity, and then Canada just gets more influenced by that, whereas Australia was just so isolated, so we kept the UK, maybe? I really don't know. Either way, I can certainly sympathize with her because you'd just be going, oh, okay, I guess I'm just not going to talk anymore because I just completely read the room wrong. But no, that was a great video in terms of, I guess, coming from an Australian's perspective, you get outsider information in terms of Canadians will never pick up on the fact that it's Oral B and you've got seasons that are just starting and ending in different months or compared to Australia. And so I guess it was just quite refreshing to me to hear that I wasn't the only one that thought Canada was just cold 24/7. And even if no one ever uses these things because they're planning to move to Canada or not, I feel as though just generally it's good to know what is going on in the rest of the world, you know, whether it's sarcasm, parkades, or like I said, just cold weather. But anyway, in saying that, I reckon I'm going to call it there. So thank you for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, feel free to do the YouTube algorithm things down below. Also, if this is the first video of mine that you are watching, then make sure to check out just any other ones I've done. Also, make sure to go check out the original video down in the description below, or hey, maybe even just want to consider subscribing so that you don't miss another one of these in the future. But all in all, have a good one and see ya.